I thought it might be fun and instructive to go over this. This is something that a friend actually sent me, something he saw, I guess, somewhere on the internet. And this is a group called NAFO, which is NAFO stands for North American Fellas Organization. I don't know what OFAN is. Maybe that's the same acronym in a different language, just like I think NATO is called OTAN in some other language. But anyway, this seems to be a group that wants to gin up support for the NATO proxy war, what some might call the war in Ukraine, which I suppose it is the war in Ukraine, but it's also a NATO proxy war. But they would say that that just shows that I am a Western genocide apologist. So we're already starting off strong here. Genocide apologist. Where is a genocide happening? Point me to the genocide. There's a war going on, and I'm willing to believe that both sides are committing atrocities in this war. You know, war is never a good thing, never always an ugly phenomenon, and that's why I would like to see this war come to an end. I would like to see a negotiated peace for this instead of the fighting and the killing and the dying and the civilian casualties, which are an inevitability. I'm not an apologist for anyone, but I certainly do not support pouring money into this to one side of this basically civil war over a border dispute that is quite complicated, despite how some want to spin it as just a simple war of good and evil, or a war of the good guys versus genocidists, genocidal Russians, I guess. So know your Western genocide apologist, a NAFO OFAN educational resource. Let's see what they've got here. First is the communist. Thinks Russia is still communist and is standing up for the little guy against the evil corporate West. Has absolutely no grasp of the reality of the modern world, denser than a neutron star. I don't know, does this person exist? Do people exist who still think that Russia is still the USSR? This really seems like a straw man. I forgot the term straw man. It fled from my mind, as often happens when I do these things. Plus, I'm getting older. So so the first Western genocide apologist is the communist. Okay. Second one, be the lefty anti-fascist, subtype of A. Thinks a country having issues with neo-Nazis, as many countries do, having issues with neo-Nazis means that the whole society and its government are fascist. I don't mean to be a pedantic asshole here, but when you're putting out these press releases, just, guys, it's ITS, no apostrophe, okay? So anyway, I know that's kind of a pedantic asshole thing to point out a grammatical error, but still, I mean, this is an official educational resource, supposedly. So, thinks a country having issues with neo-Nazis means that the whole society and its government are fascist, ignores polls showing how false that is, and evidence that there are just as many fascists in Russia. Okay, so thinks a country, so they don't say Ukraine. They don't talk about how Stephen Bandera, an infamous Nazi, was given his own holiday in recent years in Ukraine. They don't talk about Right Sector. They don't talk about the Azov Battalion, which is a significant part of the military, and they are and have long been neo-Nazis. Now, to be sure, they are kosher Nazis for whatever reason, because Israel supports them, as do most Western governments. But then Israel and most Western governments supported ISIS in Syria. So there you have it. Thinks she is really clever. I mean, again, straw man. Boy, I really hate this. This person just thinks they're really clever. But again, phrasing it like this way is dishonest. Thinks a country having issues with neo-Nazis, as many countries do. I mean, there's having issues with a group. That's phrasing it so vaguely. That's really phrasing it in a dishonest manner, given the extent to which these groups have legitimate power in Ukraine presently. It doesn't make a difference, of course, to Western NATO apologists, but nevertheless, these groups are what they are, and they're not. It's not just a question of a country having issues with neo-Nazis. Okay, the third type of Western genocide apologist. Again, where's the genocide, guys? Who's apologizing for a genocide? Those are two separate questions. Point me to the genocide, first of all. There's a war going on. There's a war, and there are civilian casualties, and both sides are guilty of war crimes. I'm almost positive. But show me where the genocide is taking place. What's the genocide that you're referring to? And who's an apologist for a genocide? Anyway, moving on. The hard right likes the fact that Russia is quite fascist, attracted to the ultra-macho, racist, sexist Russian military culture. Hasn't yet grasped that Russia's military is usually quite rubbish at fighting. Oh, really? Napoleon and Hitler would have something to say about that. Usually a homophobic. Always an arsehole. I'm starting to think Colin Liddell might have ghostwritten this. Okay, yeah, there is the sort of person who I mean, I think this profile comes the closest to being honest out of all of them, except the part about Russia's military being rubbish at fighting. That just seems like they're just trying to get you. They're just trying to get you riled up with that one. Usually homophobic, probably, or anti-gay, or not favorable to homosexuality being openly expressed in society. I don't know if that's homophobic, but whatever. Okay. All right, guys, here I am. I see myself in this blonde woman without a face? That's me. I'm the contrarian. I told my friend this. I said, well, I'm D. Okay. So, see if this sounds like me. Quote, does own research. They're mocking you. They're mocking you for wanting to do your own research. Does own research. Yeah, right. Yeah. does your own research. Who ever heard of such a thing? And doesn't trust the MSM. I think maybe that's supposed to be in quotes too, because there's a beginning quote, but there's no end quote. So again, I don't mean to be a grammar Nazi. Ironically enough, I don't want to mean to be a grammar Nazi, but you know, you gotta take care of these things, guys. So does own research and quote does own research and quote doesn't trust the MSN. Well, yes, I don't trust the MSN. As far as doing my own research, I don't. I mean, I just know that I'm being lied to. And if you don't think that the Western media is lying to you on the daily, then I don't know. You might be either a lost cause or you're just naive. And I could see maybe if you're really young or just don't think about these things a lot, and you just still believe what's in the papers and what's on CNN, I could see that maybe you're not necessarily being disingenuous. But otherwise, I don't think there's any reason to be trusting of this particular group of scribblers and newsreaders. So anyway, going on to describe myself here. Thinks saying the opposite of whatever Western media is saying is really clever. They've got this thing with being clever. Thinks he is really clever. That's what they say about the lefty anti-fascist. Here they say the contrarian. Thinks saying the opposite of whatever Western media is saying is really clever. How about just knowing that you're being lied to? Knowing that the people who claim some kind of authority, who claim to know stuff, who claim to know what the truth is, are not telling you the truth. Okay, thinks saying the opposite of whatever Western media is saying is really clever, but swallows Russian propaganda like it's the jizz of the gods. A little vulgar. Jeez. Thinks you're a stupid sheeple. What if you don't trust anyone's propaganda? What does that make you? Right? It seems that this is like one of the, like, they don't even, see the thing about this one is they don't even bother to say, actually, the Western media, the MSM, should be trusted. The MSM is telling you the truth. You should believe what they're telling you. You know, quote, doesn't trust the MSM. I mean, that's putting it in these mocking quotes, like you should somehow trust the MSM. I don't know. It does own research. There's nothing wrong with, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing your own research, right? I can't claim to have done my own research because I'm not in the war zone right now. I don't know what's. I mean, I know that what the bought and paid for media tells me is a bunch of hooey. I know that. In all likelihood, it is anyway, and has been for years. But I can't claim to do my own research. But there's nothing wrong with doing your own research. And I don't swallow Russian propaganda either. I mean, it's not an either or kind of thing. It's the same notion of you have to be on. If you're not with one side, you're with the other side. If you're not with me, you're my enemy. as George W. Bush and Anakin Skywalker both said. It's not so. It's not the case. It's not that black and white. Finally, the fifth type of the genocide apologist is the peacenik. A peacenik somebody who likes peace, who's in favor of peace, is in favor of genocide. I would think that genocide is not a very peaceful event. But again, where is the genocide? Where is it, guys? If any of you are watching. Okay, the peacenik thinks the war is NATO's fault. Thinks Ukraine should surrender the occupied land to end the NATO proxy war. Again, this is making it sound like all of these borders, like the dispute over these borders, concerning what's the land in East Ukraine, the Donbass region, where there are more people who identify as Russian than who identify as Ukrainian. That's occupied land. Okay, so again, I know that with there has to be some element of simplifying the complicated. When you're putting out these kinds of flyers or whatever this is. But so much of this language is so just so dishonest. To end the quote NATO proxy war. Well, yeah, it is a NATO proxy war. Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, NATO is involved. For what reason? It seems that the reason is because they want to have a unipolar world, and that Russia is in the way of that, of having the unipolar world ruled by Western elites. It seems that's why NATO is why Western leaders, why elites in the West generally want to keep this war going. Anyway, okay, brain explodes when asked if they would surrender if it were their country being invaded. Logic disabled. Okay. If Western Ukraine is invaded and taken over by the Russians, if Eastern Bloc, if Poland is invaded, if Hungary is invaded, if other Eastern Bloc, or what used to be Eastern Bloc countries that were under the control of the Soviet Union, if those countries get invaded, then I'll say, that this is a matter of the sovereignty of nations being stomped on, being infringed. But Ukraine, as far as the borders of Ukraine, as far as the difference, culturally speaking, between Western Ukraine and Eastern Ukraine, the difference ethnically speaking between Western Ukraine and Eastern Ukraine, the fact that there has been a kind of low-level, low-key civil war over the course of the last few years, in Ukraine, even before Russian intervention. All of that is simply ignored. Just like when people say that that Russia's invasion was unprovoked, like hell it was. I mean, again, that's not me being an apologist for genocide. That's just looking at it, with a pair of eyes that are not blinkered by partisanship. Anyway, this is the kind of stuff that they're putting out, and I don't know anything about this organization, NAFO, OFAN, but I really doubt they just exist independently. I'll just say that. I think they're probably they're probably funded by somebody somewhere. That's just my guess. That's just my guess. I could be wrong, but that's my guess. So there you go. What kind of Western genocide apologist are you? Thanks for watching.